welcome to Project Recovery, a podcast about addiction. More importantly, it's about recovery. My name is Casey Scott. My co-host is Dr. Matt Woolley. He's a clinical psychologist. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. Hey, so we've got an exciting show for you today. We're going to bring back a guest.
I probably shouldn't have said doing good.
Isn't
it doing well?
You're asking me.
The English.
Yeah, I make up my own words.
We got a guy from Ogden and a guy from Morgan, so I'm not sure we ever really know.
I think either way we're doing good or doing well.
Okay.
Hey, so the other day I'm at the gym, working on my fitness.
You do that every day.
I do it, and it's a vital part of my recovery.
Right.
And your family, you get a gym family, if you will. And so people that you see at the gym. And, you don't really know a lot about them, but it really is. Like, if you don't see them and you see them 4 days later, you'd be like, hey, what's up? Where have you been? And you're like, oh, I was out of town, or is this? And so you start to get little bits of insights.
Situational friends.
Yes.
That's what we call it. These are your gym buddies.
Situational friends. And
but in true Casey style, he took that to family.
Yeah.
Because Casey is inclusive. And
everybody's in.
You're a lover of everyone. Yeah, I get it.
So I'm on this machine. I'm working on my abs. You know what I mean?
I'm glad you said abs.
I don't want. Maybe I should just say ab because there's not a bunch of them.
Okay. Well, you're planning ahead.
So I'm there and I'm doing my crunches and I've got one ear pod in and the other one tucked up under my hat in case people are talking to me and I want to be able to hear what they're saying. So I don't have to do the thing where hold on.
Very pro-social of you.
You know what I mean? Taking it off and going, hey, what was that again? And it's
like,
hey, you're on my machine. But that's not what was being said. So I'm working on my crunches.
Yeah.
And I hear these two people. It was two dudes talking back and forth. And one's going, hey, did you watch the game last night? And they were talking about the Thursday night football game.
I bet that's said 1,000 times at the gym.
And the guy
that seems like the place where somebody would ask you if you've seen the game last night.
And he goes, no, how was it? And he goes, well, the New York Giants quarterback set a record for getting knocked down 22 times. And I went, did he finish the game? And I wasn't even in on the conversation.
Right.
And the guy goes, yeah, he did. I goes, sounds like he set a record for getting up 23.
Oh, I like it.
You know what I mean? But
optimism.
But that's where my head went. And they stopped and they go, that's right. I go, hey, yeah, I mean, he got knocked down 22 times.
You can look at it either way, right?
But he got up 23 and finished the game.
Yeah.
But society focuses on how many times he gets knocked down.
It's the negativity bias.
I watched the news later that day, and that was the headline story. Quarterback gets knocked down 22 times.
Isn't that too bad? Why didn't they say he gets up 23 times?
And finish the game. And they lost. I mean, they didn't win. But, I mean, that guy, the 19th time he got knocked down, probably went, man, I don't know if I can do this much more. This is sucky.
Or like the first time.
Yeah. Because, I mean, you look at those linebackers and those linemen coming at you. And
they're pretty serious about knocking you down.
Their job is to hurt you.
Yeah.
And it's so much in the fact that they get accolades when they do.
Oh, for sure.
And so this guy got knocked down 22 times. But in my mind, he got up 23.
I love it.
And finished the game.
I love it.
And so that's what
I hope that he sees it your way. And that will be the difference between whether he's a good athlete or a great athlete. A great athlete, I think, jumps right to that point of view about their experience because people destroy other people in the media like never in history before with social media.
Right.
And they are always waiting to take you down. Even psychologists who just read data on a podcast sometimes take a lot of flack because of the data that they're reading that isn't theirs. And so imagine a football player is much more interesting than a psychologist.
I get it.
Getting knocked down 22 times.
This sounds very personal.
It's not.
Okay.
I don't know, just an example.
But very specific example.
Well, and I hope that for this guy's sake, he's not listening to I got knocked down 22 times. I hope that he naturally or with the help of people that he works with, that he's focused on, I got up 23 times, and that is my record that I'm focusing on. So I love the fact that your brain went right there.
So now Casey, why did you bring up this football statistic on a podcast?
Yeah, I was wondering, Casey, so why did you bring this up?
Because I can liken it to recovery. Because I remember the time I was sitting in recovery, and there was a guy next to me, and it was Parents' Weekend. And the dad goes, son, we're done. This is your 9th time doing this. And the son goes, well, Dad, we're technically done until I'm done. And the dad goes, no, I get that, but we're financially broke and we can't do it anymore. But when I heard the other day that kid is sober, I applauded him. because
Nice.
it took the 10th time. And so there's a lot of people in recovery that have relapses, and relapses are a part of the program. But there are so many people once you get sober, even so much as the fact when I got my job back on KSL and I'm doing a TV reporting job and they hired me and I'm full-time, benefits and all that good stuff. 2 years ago, somebody asked me, how can you promise me that this will never happen again?
Right.
Everything inside me wanted to say, it won't. I got it this time. I promise. But I know my recovery and I know what the statistics are. And I said, you know what? I can't. And he goes, how can you not promise me? I said, because I don't know. I can tell you I'm better equipped. I have a better knowledge about my addiction, a better understanding, and I have more tools than I've ever had. But I cannot give you a promise.
Yeah. Because you run an honest program.
And that's
Now.
what works for me. Yeah. But
you did not get that job, as I recall, right?
I did not get that job.
Right. But wasn't it better to be honest with him and honest with yourself? And yeah.
So far, honesty's been working, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
Like it's wonderful. Honesty is wonderful.
Is the best policy.
And sometimes it is hard.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to say
I
things.
think it's harder. I think it's hard almost all the time.
Well, that's why people
you
lie.
Know what I mean?
Because it's the easy way
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Sometimes those jeans make your butt look big.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I'm going to say, no, honey, you're good.
Yeah. Well,
You're-
time and a place, right?
Yeah.
But yeah.
But so what I wanted to say is that, we've had people on the podcast who have relapsed and found their sobriety. Maybe they went to rehab once, twice, 3, 4, 5 times. We've had people that have gone 9 and 11, and now they're here to tell
Right.
their recovery story. Mm-hmm. And what it is getting up one more time.
One more time. Yeah.
And you need to get up one more time.
Oh, I love it. And that's back to what I've always accused you of being, and that's an optimist. And we know the research on optimists. Optimists tend to succeed more than pessimists. And, the pessimists can pretend they're realists if that makes them feel better. Mm-hmm. But the reality is if you're an optimist, you find a way to go one more time. And I'm guessing that this quarterback, I didn't see the game. I'm guessing
He got knocked down 22 times.
I heard that. Yeah, that's the rumor. But I'm assuming that he's an optimist because he got up 23 times. And so that's a wonderful trait. And some people are kind of born that way. Let's be honest. The research is kind of clear that you have a small percentage of people that are just super optimistic and a small percentage that are just super pessimistic from the get-go. But the vast majority of us, regardless of where we start on that continuum, it's learned. Mm-hmm. And so if you're struggling and feeling like, yeah, maybe I am kind of a pessimist and maybe it does hold me back, you can learn to be more optimistic.
So my son's been going to this boot camp twice a week. You know what I mean? To try to get him ready to figure out if he wants to be a sporty kid or just to get out and active and do this.
Good fitness, yeah.
Yeah, and it's important. Fitness has been vital, like I've said, to my recovery, and I find a lot of benefit in it. So I pick him up from boot camp, and we're driving home. And my son, Bowden, he's the smartest guy, and he's so intellectual, and he really likes to think. And so we're driving, and he goes, hey, Dad. And I always love when he says, hey, Dad, because I know whatever he's going to say.
Something's good's coming.
Something's going to come. And he goes, so there's a quote on the wall in the library. And I go, oh, yeah, there's probably lots of quotes. He goes, but I really like this one. And I go, what did it say? And he said, the difference between extraordinary, how did it say? He goes, the difference between extraordinary or something, but there's the word extra. Does that make sense?
Extraordinary?
Yeah, extraordinary.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's what he said. So he goes, the difference between ordinary and extraordinary is just that extra. And so we started talking about that. And so I was like, do you know what that extra means? And he goes, well, I mean, I'm not really sure. I go, it's just that little something more. And I said, so when we were at the gym and I was watching you run the sprints, soon as you could see the cone, you let up a little bit. He goes, yeah, because I was done. I go, you're not technically done till you pass that cone, son. So you got to push it just a little extra more.
Yep.
And he goes, well, that kind of makes sense, Dad.
Yeah.
I said, so that's what it is. It's just that little something extra.
Giving a little extra.
Giving a little extra, and you're going to get amazing results.
Yeah.
And so, but I was learning from him because I was like, holy cow. I mean, I love this kid. I love where his mind goes. And we just have these wonderful conversations.
I love the fact that what you saw there as a parent, it was a little window into his psyche, like a little window into his thinking. Like he knew there was something about that quote that he liked. He didn't fully understand it fully or the application of it, but he liked something about it.
And it might have just been the simplest form of that extras in front of ordinary.
Yeah, it could be that. I think, though, that he's at an age, and most kids are at an age where they want to be extraordinary. Do you remember that feeling of being like in, grade school, junior high, high school?
I wanted to be a lawyer that drove around a semi-truck.
Yeah.
That
is definitely extra.
Yeah, right.
That's definitely extra.
But, really, I would tell people that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a lawyer who drives a diesel.
So at that time in your life, you're looking for something like that, right?
Yeah.
You're looking, and so he was attracted to that idea of that. And I think the fact that you gave him a real life example for himself was brilliant, because that allows him to now own, like, oh yeah, I can do that in my life. I can give the little extra. So I think that's a great moment.
And that's what I love about being sober, is having these authentic interactions with my son, with people I meet, with my girlfriend, with my mother, with my father. I have these, and I can remember them, because when I was just drinking all the time, all I was trying to do was get you to laugh and then move on to the next person, because that's where
it's superficial, right?
Yes, I was very superficial.
Yeah.
And so I love it. Hey, today we've got a good show for you.
I'm excited.
We've got a guy back from, he's done podcasts twice now. He's our third time returner.
And he buys more shoes than I do, so that's good. Makes me feel better.
Patrick Williams, and he's been sober now just a little under 4 years. We're going to find out more about his story. But I always like to check back with our guests if we can, to find out how their recovery is going, because a lot of times people are just one and done, and then we never hear from them again.
Yeah, and we would love to touch base with people more often. So I'm glad Patrick came, and I'd like to reframe his sobriety time.
Yeah,
not a little under 4 years, almost 4 years.
I like what you did.
Right? Yeah, I see that.
But see, here's the deal. Good. So we're having him back, and guess what? I just found out.
Yeah.
Last Saturday, he'd also been on the podcast twice. Keaton.
Keaton.
Sober and just got married to a yoga instructor and the love of his life.
Oh, good for him. That's awesome.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm just letting you guys know that recovery is possible.
If Keaton can marry a yoga instructor, there's hope for everybody.
Right?
Right?
She's absolutely beautiful.
Good
and
for
you should
him.
see the picture of him. He's glowing.
You know what I think I saw? I think I saw that on Instagram.
Yeah, it's good.
Good for him.
So almost 4 years, Patrick.
Almost 4 years. Yeah. I don't have a yoga instructor.
Yet.
See, the optimism is... Right.
We're going to find out what recovery looks like and how he's doing it all on social media. You're listening to Project Recovery. Hey, welcome back to the podcast. I am Casey Scott. That's Dr. Matt Woolley. Our guest today is Patrick Williams. How are you, sir?
Good. Good to be back.
So you were on the podcast probably about 2 years ago, talking about your recovery and your sobriety.
Yes.
Give us a quick Cliff Note version of what that looked like, so we can give people a frame of mind of who and what you are.
You want me to go back to how long I've been
sober?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So I spent about a decade or so drinking and smoking marijuana.
Was alcohol your DOC?
Yeah, I would kind of say both, actually, because I did the two
alcohol and weed.
Yeah, if I was smoking, I was drinking. If I was drinking, I was smoking. Yeah. Go to bed or whatever. And it got really bad near the end of my 30s. I'm in my 40s now. My life got completely unmanageable. Lost jobs, got DUIs, had an interlock in my car.
If I remember, and if I'm wrong, tell me. Many people do. At some point, you would have your kid blow into your cars.
Yeah, that was a pretty low point. I was a single dad. I pretty much had him most of the time I was drinking. I don't know how I kept that together as much as I did, but I did. And I needed to get him to school, and I had drank so much the night before that I tried to blow in my interlock, and it wouldn't start. It failed. It failed the test, and I was like, I don't know what to do. Got to get him to school, and so I had him blowing it.
One of the things I like about you, Patrick, is you're just honest, man. And so I recall back when your episode had come out and you told that story that I think at least a couple people tell me, like, I could never be that honest because that's so embarrassing to admit. But that's what people do when they're in the height of their addiction. Life is falling apart, and you sometimes make choices that you're embarrassed about, but I'm glad you're willing to talk about it because that brings people together.
Yeah, it was I think a huge part of my recovery is honesty, because I was so secretive about what I was doing, right?
Manipulative.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm saying for me.
Oh, it was the same. I lied about everything. Every date I'd go on.
Stuff that you didn't even need to lie about.
Yeah, it's just
I mean,
stupid
that's how
stuff.
bad it is.
Yeah. Oh,
it's like you could tell the truth and you wouldn't get in trouble, but you decided to lie anyways.
Well, I think at some point you're kind of like, which lie is related to what? I better just keep lying because, one lie leads to another. Pretty soon you have this, you've woven a tapestry of dishonesty and you don't even know what's real.
Yeah, it was hard. It was hard for me to be brutally honest, like impeccable with your word. I mean, that's hard as a human anyways, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But if you're trying to cover an addiction or, you're an alcoholic, like you got to keep this persona up, and I just couldn't do it. Just couldn't do it anymore.
I think this is a perfect segue into why I wanted you back on the podcast, because Dr. Matt said that, a lot of people were going to be so embarrassed of how honest you were, and they don't think they could do that.
Yeah.
And I recently did a post because people have accused me of, being too open about my recovery, and sometimes it's embarrassing. And I did a post about it, and I says,
embarrassment by association?
Yeah.
That's true. That's a real thing.
Yeah, and there's that thing. But I said, you know what? I'm not embarrassed of how openly I am about my recovery. I'm more embarrassed about my actions in my addiction. That's where it was.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, hey, look, if you think this is embarrassing, I mean, I did some stuff that would blow your mind.
I think you have to be more embarrassed about what you did in your addiction in order to be as honest as you need to be now, right? For everybody. And if you're not more embarrassed about that, then you're going to continue being dishonest.
And it takes some time to get that honest. But I have watched you now ever since you came on the podcast, and I've watched your social media, your TikTok, your LinkedIn, your Instagram, whatever you're on. You are so open about your situation and what life looks like for you in recovery. I mean, and I'm not putting you on blast here. I've seen you cry.
Yeah, for sure.
Multiple times on TikTok Reels and Instagram because you're just talking about what's going on in your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What benefit does that do for you?
It's for me. You know what I mean? Like, I think when you're talking about how people are they're embarrassed for you, like your recovery is yours, right? So whatever you're doing to stay sober, whether that's going to AA, whether that's working out, or I play a lot of golf. I started running. I hated running. I still hate it every single time I get to that 4 miles, and you're just like, oh, I hate this. But there's just something chemically that happens in my brain if I'm not working out every day, if I'm not, being active or going golfing or whatever, like those thoughts starts to creep in like, oh, I could just go to the liquor store just right around the corner from my house on Holiday.
I could run there.
I could run. Oh, I ran there. I did run there all the time because I was too drunk to drive around the corner. But yeah, I've had a lot of people. I've had some negative, response to my LinkedIn account, especially because it's supposed to be a professional business platform, and people don't talk about mental health. People don't talk about anxiety, at work with all these big tech companies here. And I had numerous people DM me, send me private messages like, hey, Patrick, I really appreciate you talking openly about your suicide attempt or your alcoholism or your drug addiction, because I couldn't do that. I probably would get fired if people knew, maybe I'm active in addiction or I'm trying to go into recovery. So, the whole point for me doing it is for me. And if I could help, one alcoholic or one drug addict, realize that there's hope out there, that, if I could do it, if Casey can get sober, because, we were in the depths of hell, you know what I mean? Like we were, we lost everything. And to be able to get knocked down, I get up again. What's that, Chumbawamba? I get knocked. I don't know why I get up again. It's such a great song.
It's a song about drinking.
I did.
Yeah. They say in the song "Pissing the Night Away." That means because they've just been drinking so much that they spend all the time.
Can we
in
just
the bathroom.
show our millennial?
Yeah.
I'm
cool with that. But so, what finally got you sober?
I didn't go to rehab. I should have. Like I said, it was a good decade-long run. I was raised LDS and then left the church, and I kind of drank at the church. You know what I mean? Like was like, oh, I can do this now, and did all the things I wasn't told I was not supposed to do. And then I knew I was an alcoholic the first time I had alcohol when I was 15. I had a Budweiser on a cruise, and it hit my system. And I was like, whoa, like this is it, you know? And so I drank intermittently through high school and stuff.
Looking back, you knew at the time when you were 15, did you think this is going to be a problem?
I had a feeling.
Okay.
I knew addiction ran my family and depression and personality disorder. So
Weren't you in a boy band?
I was in a singing group. It was like a performing group.
He's reframed it in his mind.
Did you ever go to Lagoon? You
Yeah.
know those guys that perform Lagoon?
Yeah.
I did stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah, we performed on cruises and
A boy band.
there was girls in the group too. We danced and sang
Okay.
and sang songs. But yes.
I gotcha. So what was your rock bottom? I mean, how did you finally get sober?
Yeah, it was after my DUI. Didn't do it, and then I got a second one. Still kept drinking. Kept trying to put us facade.
Were those DUIs serious, like accident wise?
No, they weren't serious. Just got pulled over on the freeway, just driving too fast. Yeah, but it was around. So I would take breaks on my own, like I would not drink for months, right?
And that's what a lot of addicts do. I mean,
Yeah.
I in my own
Or
story.
switch to like vodka instead of whiskey, or
Yeah.
beer instead of whatever.
Well, I could take 2 months off just to prove to everybody else. I could tell them for the next 2 years. Do you remember that time I took 2 months off? I mean, it's
Yeah. Well,
That's a common-
I was
You're deluding yourself.
yeah.
Yeah, I was dating a girl, and it was really difficult for me to hold a relationship, obviously. And so I didn't have many relationships while I was drinking, but I met this one girl near the end of like my bottom, and we went to San Diego. I went to go see. I was still trying to be spiritual, still trying to like maintain, some form of spirituality. So I went to go see Abraham Hicks. She's like a manifestation, law of attraction guru.
Okay.
It was a workshop, and she was into it, so was her sister. And I was drunk the entire time, the entire 4 or 5 days that we were there. And I didn't realize how drunk I was. And we got back home, and she came over to my house and was like, "Do you really know what happened this weekend?" I'm like, "What are you talking about? I thought we had a great time." And she's like, "You ran up a $600 tab at the Hilton bar, the Marriott bar. You were downstairs at the bar the entire time." And I was completely oblivious to it. I thought we were having a good time. We were going out to dinner, went to this workshop. And so I spent that weekend in this like binge, like woe is me type of drinking, depression. And I woke up, this is like from a Sunday till a Thursday. So I was just completely sick, and woke up. I said, okay, I got to do this. And I'd reached out to friends about AA, and my friends said, maybe you should go to rehab. And I checked out rehab, and it was just too expensive. My parents weren't going to help me. They put my little brother through rehab, and thousands of dollars. So yeah, I went to an AA meeting that Thursday morning, and stood up, and that was February 7th, 3.5 years ago, and said, "Hey, I'm Patrick. I'm an alcoholic, and I need some help." That was what I needed at the time. And I went to AA every day after that for about 90 days. And then, I started working the program. I don't work it much anymore.
The 12-step.
Yeah. But that's what I needed. That's what, it was either I was going to kill myself, or I was going to kill somebody by driving drunk, or, I was going to end up in jail. In prison for the rest of my life.
That's usually how it ends with most addicts.
Yeah. Yep. So, I don't know what clicked that day, but
So what do you think? You said that's what I needed. So just expand on that a little bit. Like, what did you get out of AA?
I think I learned the honesty piece there, because I was such a manipulative person, and I just was a professional liar. Most of my when I was a kid, even through adulthood, right? And so I think one thing that AA teaches you is like, you've got to be honest about your sobriety, what you're doing, how you're talking to people, being impeccable with your word, things like that. So I needed to get brutally honest with myself, number one, to admit that I really did have a problem because I didn't think I did.
What'd you think about the girlfriend that was she called you out a little bit by bringing up the $600 tab and all that? Like was that hard to hear?
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. I really liked her, and it was not fair. It was not fair to her, and I would not want to be in a relationship with me. During that time, it was.
You guys are there to have this sort of spiritual conversation and enlightenment and open up your mind to things. And it sounds like she was pretty disappointed.
Oh yeah, she was extremely disappointed. Yeah, I ruined that. I ruined most relationships because of my drinking or my big ego or whatever you want to call it. So yeah, but I'm really grateful for her, and we've subsequently I've made amends with her, and we're friends. But yeah, I'm really glad that she cared enough about me to say, hey, look, I'm not going to do this anymore, so you need to get some help.
But there must have been something, because it sounds like that wasn't the first time you heard something like that from a girlfriend. So was there something different that made you kind of think, I can call up my buddies and find out about this AA thing?
Yeah, I just think I was just sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yeah, there you go.
Like, I was just done. Like, I don't know if there is a bottom. Like, I think it's a bottomless pit that we just keep digging and digging.
Some people dig that and it becomes their grave. I mean,
until you die. That's what I'm saying. It's a bottomless pit.
So I think when we talk about like hitting rock bottom's it's a metaphor for insight.
Right.
Right. Like that at some point something people say clicks, or it's different this time. This particular girlfriend saying this to me this time, or this experience I had this time, which is so much like all the ones I had before, somehow in the individual person's brain, there's an insight moment that happens, an epiphany, and that flips the switch to, and it may not happen right away, but people can almost always, who get sober and stay sober and live a life of recovery, there's something, at some point it's like, oh, and so I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, however the insight feels to that person.
Right.
But then I'm always curious what they attach to. And in your case, you had the moment, and then you attached to AA, and other people have tried AA, and they're like, yep, that wasn't for me. Yeah. They attached to something else, So it's just interesting, I think, to find out like what it does for a person. In your case, what AA did for you is the honesty piece, I guess.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and it was, it was a regiment. It was, something consistent I was doing every day.
Structure, right?
And then there was a community there that you can meet with.
And see, for me, that's what it was. I remember, because I'm not a 12-step or an AA guy, but for the first time in my addiction, I didn't feel alone.
Right.
And I found out
you were in a room full of other people that were telling very similar stories, right? And you're like, oh, I'm really not that bad.
And speaking of stories, we're listening to Patrick Williams' story. We're going to hear more from him in just a few seconds. You're listening to Project Recovery. Hey, welcome back to Project Recovery. I'm Casey Scott. That's Dr. Matt Willie. Our guest today is Patrick Williams. We found out how you got sober and a little bit of why you got sober. But why I really wanted you on the podcast was to talk about your social. You're very honest on your social. I've seen you go through 3 or 4 girlfriends. I've seen you go through 3 or 4 breakups. Mm-hmm. You showcase your son. It's all out there for anybody who wants it.
Yep.
My first question is, what does your son think about your sobriety?
He's
How old is he now?
He's 14.
Okay.
Yeah. So he growing up, through 1 through 12, he had a drunk dad. Like I said, I try not to drink around him, but it was hard because I'd had some weekends off and days off that my ex-wife would take him. Yeah, but for the most part, I remember it was several years ago when I was first getting sober. He mentioned to me one time about the interlock. He's like, "Dad, I'm really proud of you that you don't have that interlock in the car anymore," because it was embarrassing to him. Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Everywhere I went, I had to.
It goes off. I had one with my kids.
Yeah. So yeah, he doesn't. He's a really insightful kid. So I think he gets it. Like, he talks about me going to AA and. Like, sometimes I'll have to go to a meeting. I don't go to a ton of AA anymore, but when I do, if he's home, be like, hey, I'm going to go to a meeting. He's like, okay, cool, stuff like that. So he's pretty aware. Kids are really smart
and resilient,
very resilient. Yeah.
But it doesn't sound like at 14 he's too embarrassed of this, like putting it out on social, or does he?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's 14. I'm on TikTok, and that's kind of where they're at right now.
Right.
And
you got like 30,000 followers on TikTok.
Yeah, it's been interesting. It's been fun. I've been able to talk about being sober and a single dad, in Utah as an ex-Mormon in your 40s, right? So that's a lot for someone to navigate. And there's sometimes a message. Sometimes it's bad. Sometimes it's a dumpster fire. Dating. There's a lot of people that I meet that don't understand sobriety, and so I'm like, yeah, well, it's all out there if you want to get to know me. Sometimes that's bad. Sometimes people that I meet are like, no, like this is way too much for me. Like I can't. But for the most part, people are pretty supportive, I've noticed.
So you've gone on dates. You navigate that world. What's it like dating in your 40s, sober? Walk me through that.
Do you only date sober?
No, I don't. No? Yeah, so I took 2 years off. I told myself I need to give myself 2 years before I got back in the dating world to get sober. So when I first started doing it, it was really difficult because I would go on dates and just get blasted, right? Because it would take the edge off. I would probably be drunk before I got to the date, and then I would drink during the date and then drink after, right? And there's stuff that I don't even remember. So it was really hard for me to start dating and actually like be present with myself and have an actual sober conversation with somebody.
Feel the feels.
Yeah, feel all the things, feel all the feels. And it was difficult for me to try to connect because I'm naturally pretty outgoing. And so it was hard for me to like try to figure that out. Like, oh my gosh, like I can't, rely on funny drunk Patrick right now. I have to be like present and be witty and, be funny, but also not be, weird. And that's hard for me to do sometimes. So, but, I dated a girl last year. It was great. It was kind of what I needed at the time. She drank and stuff like that. It didn't really bother me. But I sensed sort of, there was just kind of a resentment going on, with my lifestyle. It just didn't jive together. And so, she moved away and we couldn't do long distance. So,
I could imagine, because she wants to go on a weekend getaway, go have some fun, whether it's Vegas or whatever, and partying usually goes hand in hand with that. And then here comes my sober boyfriend.
Right.
And now I've got to worry about him being sober, but I also want to have fun. And so do you think that got in the way?
Yeah, it's hard for me to, it's really hard for me to say.
Did you have any girls or that particular girl, like, did they, like you said, I have to worry about, like were you a downer for them? Or do they have to worry, like, oh, I don't want to set my drink down next to Patrick?
Well,
was it stressful for them?
I think so. I think people don't know how to act around people that are sober.
100%.
Definitely don't.
100%.
And they're like, you're just like, look,
John Mulaney has a great
yes.
bit about, like, they don't know what to offer you, and you're
right.
there.
Yeah, you need a liquid death. Like, what do you want? Like,
and is liquid death a drink?
It's water.
It's water that just sits like in that.
It looks like a beer though. Like I remember when my 16-year-old, when he was 16, he bought a case of liquid death and it was sitting by our fridge in the garage, and I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah, that's when I first saw it too.
I thought it was alcohol.
Office, and I was like, you guys are getting blitzed at the office? What's going on here?
It's the cool kid water. Okay. Casey.
Yeah. But no, I think I've noticed after that, it was just hard to, you're sober, right? And so you notice people, how annoying you were when you were drunk. And then you're watching this sort of from an outside perspective and you're like, I was like that. Like I was worse than that. And so, it's really, I think it's a good litmus test for people that are trying to get sober. Can you be around people that are drinking, that might be doing drugs? Do I think it's a bad thing to do? No, everybody's recovery is different. I don't mind dating people that might have a drink or two, but if it's excessive, that lifestyle is that's not gonna jive with me. Going partying every weekend, like you said, like you need a lifestyle and a partner that's going to, complement that, right? So
I agree with that for sure.
So that brings me to the last time you were crying on TikTok. Do you remember that?
I cry a lot.
So walk me through one of them.
Let's see. I'm trying to remember.
Do you think about these, or do you just hit record and go, I got something to say?
I don't really think about the content per se. I think it might be after I meditate or whatever and something's percolating in my brain and I'll be like, I want to talk about this. But yeah, I mean, going through, I think it was when I was going through that breakup, right? And I was talking about, this was the first time I've been sober going through a breakup. And like you said, it was all the feels. Like it was just everything.
I mean, that's why so many people drink, right? Like you even said, like pre-gaming before a date.
Yeah.
So that you don't have, I mean, you're disconnected from the start.
Yeah,
and then
so much of my identity was, being this like dater, right? Like my profile's The Bachelor's Life, right? So that was what I built this persona around. And so when that ended, I was just trying to process everything and like, the feelings that I had, what did I do? Why didn't it work out? And I would normally drink in that situation because I wanted to numb out. I didn't want to feel those things. But
that's why the bar business is such a great business. If you're celebrating, you go to the bar.
Yeah.
If you're miserable, you go to the bar. Either way, you're going to the bar. It's a win-win for them.
Yeah, for sure.
And so when you are going through a heartbreak and you're going through the feels and all of that, you're right. You want to numb because you want something to take that off. But when you're sober, you've got to sit there.
Yeah, and I think the worst experiences I've had drinking is when I've gone through relationship breakups. Like that's my huge trigger because I crave human connection, right? Like I need it. And when that goes away, it just sends me down this emotional tailspin, and that's when I got really bad. But this time I didn't have to do that. It took a few weeks or months and to process it.
Were you tempted to drink?
I was tempted to smoke marijuana, but I was not tempted to drink. But yeah, it was.
But you didn't.
I didn't. No.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
And that, for those who don't know, that's a huge milestone.
Yeah.
Is getting through that. The breakup, it sucks. But not drinking or smoking to get you through that is amazing.
Yeah, and it was I noticed that I was getting pretty depressed though, and my anxiety was through the roof. So I went to my doctor, my psychologist and therapist, and he's like, "It might be good for you to go on some antidepressants for a while, some anti-anxiety medications, some SSRIs and stuff." And so I was like, "Yeah, I'm open to that." And yeah, I'm taking Wellbutrin every day, and it's really leveled me out. And it's helped me, navigate this stuff.
I'm glad you brought that up because, I mean, the truth is going through a breakup's hard, but a person going through a breakup who has a higher propensity to depression and anxiety, So, the biology of that, if you don't get real help with it, proper help with it, measured help, then what's the tendency? It's to help yourself with things like weed. Alcohol,
self-medicate.
Yeah, self-medicate. So I'm glad you did that.
Yeah, I'm glad I did too.
So what does recovery look like for you now? For somebody who's listening, who is single and in recovery and wanting to put themselves back out there, what are some things they should look at and be caution of, or take stock in, or is there a playbook? I'm going to tell you, you're the only guy I know that's been in recovery that's been in the dating world, and I just know it from watching you on TikTok.
Yeah, I would definitely take some time to not date.
They say the 13th step in the 12-step program is hooking up.
Yeah.
So you're saying take some time on that 13th.
For sure, yeah. Hurt people, right? You attract unhealed people if you're unhealed. Like that's just what you navigate to. So I think once you're starting to really realize and work internally on yourself and, go to therapy and work through these things, you have a better understanding of the type of people you want to attract into your experience, right? You aren't attracting alcoholics. You're not attracting drug addicts anymore. Like you're changing your circles. You might have to change your friends. Putting yourself out there on a dating app is hard. Like it's really hard. I think it's brave for people, especially in recovery, putting themselves out there. And on my dating profiles, I said, I'm sober, and so that you don't jive with that.
So Casey and I, you've never been on a dating site. I've never been on a dating app. So in the room, we got
producer Josh. He's on every dating app.
Josh is on all of them.
I'm pretty much on all of them.
Tinder.
Yeah,
Hinge.
all those. Grindr. He's on all of them. No, I don't know. I don't know what they do. But Josh, can you pipe in? So we've got Patrick here saying it's hard to put yourself out there. I know you're not in recovery, but is it hard to put yourself, what's it like to put yourself on an app, create a profile and you're advertising for yourself basically?
I don't know. I guess it depends on how serious you're looking at it. For me, it's like a game that we play with my family on the weekend where it's like we all get together and we're like,
together.
Oh yeah, this person's cool.
Okay,
let's swipe right there. But if you I'm not actively being I'm looking for the love of my life.
Okay.
But if you are, then you have to approach it a lot more serious, which also means that if you don't get the results that you want, you're probably going to be a little
So let me ask you this. So I know you're not in recovery. Do you have a tendency to fudge the truth or hold back on information about yourself?
No, because I'm 33.
Do you say that you're the producer of an award-winning podcast?
I definitely don't. I don't.
KSL.
If I'm gonna fudge anything, I'll be a member of the cartel or something like that. Being a producer for Project Recovery.
All right, so all those out there swiping on Bumble today, beware.
You can find anything you want, honestly, on those dating apps.
But, the reason I bring this up is, Patrick, you have this, thanks, Josh. Patrick, you have this, you're out there. Right. And so it's on, whether it's a dating app or it's your social, and I guess what I'm trying to discover, I want the listeners to hear, what is that doing for you? How does it help you? Because you're putting a lot of time. I think about social, and I'll post a picture now and then, but I think it's doing something more for you. What do you think being out there does for you? Because it is kind of scary, like you brought up. Again,
I think it goes back to the idea of me just being such an egomaniac, and I just craved attention, especially in.
You're the nicest egomaniac I've ever met.
Well,
I think.
Yeah, I think. Well, call yourself an egomaniac or a narcissist, you probably aren't because you couldn't recognize that.
Exactly.
But I think it's more of a therapy, I guess you could say, for me, to put myself out there. Again, it's sometimes it's been good. Sometimes it hasn't been good. Some people will stumble upon my dating profile.
So kind of cathartic though, just because it sounds like you said, well, I have an insight, maybe I've done my meditation and I've got some, and I just want to put it out there.
Yeah.
I'm going to hazard, I'm not a therapist, but my friend is. I think it's connection. I think you get some connection out of that. Yeah, I think you get a community, and I think you put it out there, and those who are attracted to you like what you're doing, and there's that connection. For me, that's
there's
what I
a
think.
Huge recovery community especially on TikTok. There's sober talk, and then there's the algorithm will show those type of videos and on your For You page and stuff. So yeah, there's been a ton of connection. I've got some clients, through my business, through me talking about this openly, them being sober and being like, oh yeah, I don't know if it makes me, I don't know if it makes me more trustworthy, but they understand, going through recovery and what that looks like, and being sober for a number of years. There's a little bit of a grittiness to people that can do this. So
I think it would make you more trustworthy. I mean,
I hope so.
I can't see how it would hurt. I think it would help trust.
Because the stuff you're going through isn't what most people would lie about.
Right.
You know what I mean? How honest and real you are. You know
Yeah.
what I
Well,
mean?
there's a stigma. Well, I'm in marketing and worked for tech companies around here, and there's a stigma around mental health and
for sure.
around, talking about being an alcoholic. And, like you said, like there's a lot of women that I'll meet that'll be like, no, I won't date anybody who is an alcoholic or has gone through recovery because they've had awful experiences, right? Mm-hmm. An ex or a boyfriend. So there's those hurdles you have to jump through. But again, this is my recovery. It's my life. If you want to, it's a pretty cool life. I'm really proud of it. And if you want to join that and go golfing all the time, then cool. But if not, then that's great. But that attitude, I used to be pretty cynical towards, dating and, it was their fault. Like, no, it was not. It was me. Like I was
You can see that now.
Yeah, I was ruining every relationship.
So let me ask you this. Dr. Matt asked producer Josh a question. Are you looking for love on these dating sites?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I don't know how else I'm going to meet somebody. Like I don't go to church anymore. I don't go to bars. I'm try to go to events and I'm pretty social, but yeah, I would like to meet somebody and have a romance and but again, I think you can find anything that you want. I've made a lot of really good friends, good girlfriends that I'm friends with to this day that I've met on dating apps. Didn't romantically work out, but they're awesome humans. And so, yeah, I most certainly am.
So coming up on 4 years of sobriety, what has sobriety taught you?
Oh gosh, it's taught me how to cope with my actual feelings without numbing them with a substance or a drug. It's taught me how to be a better father. It's taught me how to be a better human in general, how to be more honest in business. It's taught me how to spend money because I used to spend I spend it on shoes and clothes now, but yeah, it's completely changed my life. Like I was talking to you earlier, I had to recreate. Like I had this personality, this guy in me, but it was so suppressed for so many years that it just couldn't come out.
So much in the fact that you meet people now and they don't remember you.
Yeah,
or
I don't remember
recognize
them
you
because I was drunk or high. Yeah, so it's been interesting trying to navigate that and creating
the life you want.
The life I want, exactly, and attracting those people that you want into your experience. Definitely, it takes a lot of work, and I struggle with mental health and my depression, and I have to be really on top of it, or you can slip up and you can go right back down to where you were.
So do you prioritize things like your medicine? You said you had a therapist.
Yep. Yeah, monthly. I see my therapist monthly. I try to work out and run every day. I try to meditate at least 15 to 20 minutes a day. That's not always something that I do, but I notice a huge difference when I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I try to eat well, but
well, it's a balance. You're creating a balance in your life, whereas
sure.
drugs and alcohol create an imbalance, right? It's a one fix for everything, but it doesn't really fix anything. It makes everything worse.
Yeah, for sure.
It is. You have to be purposeful and you have to be on top of it. But is life better now or back then?
Oh, it's way better now. Yeah.
So it's worth it.
I highly recommend it. It is so choice.
Oh, no, sobriety was the best thing I
Is
ever
that a Ferris
done.
Bueller
You got
quote?
it.
Yeah.
Oh, look at you guys bonding. Well, Patrick, I'm glad you stopped by and shared your story with us today. We like to check in with people who've been on the podcast to see how the recovery is going.
Yeah.
And once again, your recovery is your recovery, and it seems like you're rocking it and doing it well. And I'm proud to call you my friend. If people want to follow you on your social, where do they go?
TikTok is The Bachelor's Life, all one word. Yeah, LinkedIn's just Patrick Williams. You can find me on there. Picture of a beard.
As of today, we're now Instagram friends.
Instagram. It's Petrick Will. Petrick Will.
I love
So
it.
you can check
What I
me
think is
out.
cool about that is actually most of our guests that come on, not all, but most, you hear their story, they can follow and watch your story, basically.
Yeah, it's all out there, man. The good, the bad. Make yourself feel better or worse. I don't.
I love it, man. Thank you for stopping by, and thank you for letting us into your ears one more time. You've been listening to Project Recovery, and in case you forgot, what?
It's a KSL podcast.
The contents of this program are for informational purposes only. The program is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician, licensed therapist, or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you've heard on this program. KSL does not recommend or endorse any specific tests, physicians, products, procedures, opinions, or other information that may be mentioned on the program. Reliance on any information provided on the program is solely at your own risk.